Today's video is sponsored by Squarespace. Well, here we are. I'm recording this video on Friday the 15th of October, slap bang in the middle between the Turkish and US Grand Prix. 16 out of 22 rounds are ticked off, 6 to go. USA next week, followed by Mexico, Brazil, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the season finale in Abu Dhabi. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton are clear in the title fight, 8 points separating them. Valtteri Bottas is P3 in the title, 79.5 points off of the back of Lewis, 87.5 off of Max. Still mathematically possible to win the title, but come on now, it's not going to happen, is it? And you know what, 2021 I think has been one of the most enjoyable, entertaining Formula One seasons in living memory for me, 100%. So with 6 races to go, to be honest, I just want an excuse to talk about it, right? Who's going to come out on top in those final 6 events between Max, between Lewis, and who's going to end the year with that 2021 World Drivers' Championship dub? And instead of just hearing my nonsense takes, I've also invited some YouTube content creator friends of mine to give their thoughts as well. This 2021 championship fight, as long as it carries on in the same way and we don't get like Max or Lewis winning the last 6 races in a row, right? As long as it carries on as competitive as it is, it will go down, no doubt, as one of the greatest title fights of all time. It's had everything. An almost constantly changing leader, on-track drama between the 2 main protagonists, team principals fanning the flames, and most importantly, incredible driving from both. But Lewis was always going to be up there, wasn't he? Fighting for his 8th world title, fighting for his 5th in a row. He is a proven entity, arguably the best to ever do it. And we also knew if Red Bull gave Max the car to challenge, he would do so. And he is. It is a shame not having Bottas up there, not having Perez up there to also fight. But then again, I think just having 2 main protagonists makes the story, it makes it more compelling when the focus is just on these 2 slogging it out. Max has shown since he joined the sport in 2015, he's 7 years in the sport, Max, and he's only 24, which is insane. He's got tons of experience in Formula One now, given his age, but he's been very guilty in the past of making the wrong move at the wrong time, being a bit overzealous with his overtakes and coming a cropper, you know. But this year, Max has been way more measured in his approach, if you ask me. Like, Lewis is known for playing the numbers game very well, and Max has done a much better job of that this year than he has in the past. Hence why he's leading the title with 6 races to go. Like, honestly, for me, I don't really care who wins the title. You know what I mean? I want Lewis to get number 8. I really do. I mean, if you could give me a big red button I could press and it'd guarantee Lewis the title this year, I wouldn't press it because I'm enjoying the fight and I'd rather just see it play out, to be honest. I think Lewis deserves to be the most decorated driver of all time, but whether it's this year or not, because I'd also be really chuffed for Max if he does win. Like, it would be lovely to see a non-Mercedes car win the driver's title for the first time since Vettel in 2013 at Red Bull. Ultimately, domination in any sport gets a bit samey for everyone who isn't a fan of that individual or that team. And when I think about it, because like Max and Lewis, I actually really like them as characters, as people, the way they come across, but I don't consider them as in my favourite drivers with like Ricciardo, Ocon, Norris, Albon. And I think part of that is because I like an underdog, and both of them have just been consistently outperforming their teammates for most of their careers. They've almost been too good for me to really be invested in them. You know when you're walking down the high street, right, and you see a proper nice looking shop and they're like, oh, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to buy something. Well, having a good looking website is kind of the digital equivalent to that shop window, right? First impressions matter. And if you want to build a website, then Squarespace's award-winning templates just make it so easy. But yeah, I've been using Squarespace for years, and I think if you're looking for a website, you should as well. Head to squarespace.com, take a look, see what they offer. And the best thing about it is that you can play around with the functionality, play around with the tools completely free of charge. The only time they'll ask for any money is when you want to put your website live. And when that time comes around, use the discount code TOMMOF1 or give the link in the top line of the description a tap for 10% off your first website or domain. But anyway, 6 races to go. How will they pan out? Well, let's go through race by race for my opinions and also the opinions of today's guests. Here he is, George the Voice Morgan, as far as I'm concerned. Just open that mouth and just speak to me, buddy. It's a pleasure to have you, man.
It's a pleasure to be here, Tommo.
Richard from Pit Stop Fracas, welcome, my friend. Best podcast out there. One of my top threes that I listen to consistently, mate. Honestly, hand on heart. How you doing, buddy? Welcome.
I'm all good, bro. I'm all good.
Sam, welcome to the channel. How are you, mate, first and foremost?
I'm good. I'm very, very good. When I saw your tweet, I just had to get involved.
Fellow livery nerd, fellow Thomas. Are you a Thomas as well?
I am officially, yeah.
Yeah, same.
Just when I've been naughty.
Yasha from the Quick Stop F1 podcast. Wearing his Arsenal shirt just to annoy me. Nah, at least it's not Spurs. At least it's not Spurs.
Like,
okay?
oh, God forbid.
It is mad to think of these final 6 races. There's only one that we raced at last year, which was Abu Dhabi. 3 of them, we haven't raced it since 2019. And 2 of them, we've never raced at before. But yeah, on to next weekend's race. The 2021 US Grand Prix was canned in 2020 because of the Rona. Bottas won in 2019, jumped Lewis towards the ends. It was a pretty close 1-2 though between the 2 of them.
Oh, it's a big, bold question, but I think if you look at the history, it's got to be Lewis Hamilton.
I think it should be Lewis, to be fair.
Before, I actually thought this was a Mercedes track, but I think this might be a Red Bull track, though I think it will be very close. This will be a Max Verstappen P1.
I cannot see anyone other than Lewis winning this, personally.
US is a Lewis track, it's a Mercedes track, especially with the pace that we've seen in Russia and Turkey with Mercedes. And I feel like Lewis's pace there will mean that he'll be able to hopefully bring that gap down and maybe even go ahead.
Max may have not won there, but again in 2018, he recovered from 15th to 2nd. And then in 2019, he's finished within a second of Lewis in P3 at the end. Given the Red Bull step up, I'm giving this one to Max. I think head to head, whether he'll win or not, I'm not sure. But I think out of the 2, I think Max will have the better weekend at USA. So 1-0 to Max for me. Then on to Mexico. Another track canned in 2020. So we got to go back to 2019 for the last race there. And of the last 4 times we raced at Mexico, it's always been a Max or a Lewis win. So Lewis in 2016 and 2019 and Verstappen in 17 and 18. In 2019 though, I feel like Max probably should have won. He would have put it on pole, but obviously he went through yellow flags at the end for no reason because his lap time was still good enough. And then got caught up. They actually tangled Max and Lewis and that put them both towards the back. Obviously Lewis recovered to win the race. Max ended up with a puncture.
I feel like Red Bull still have like 1 or 2 more wins in them, to be fair, for the rest of the season. Yeah, I'm going to say Red Bull will come out, so I'll say Max will get the victory.
But I think Red Bull have been really good there since 2017. And I think I can see another Red Bull win there.
Surely it's Max, this one. He managed to win these races at Mexico, even when it was, the Mercedes dominance era where they were miles quicker than anyone. So now Red Bull are a bit closer. If Red Bull don't win Mexico, I think that's where they've got to start panicking of like not wrapping up this title with Max, because that's their ground.
I am not confident for Mexico at all from a Hamilton perspective. I think a Red Bull circuit, and I think Max is probably finished ahead of Lewis in that one.
I'm going with Max. Reason being, again, I think straight line speed. I think that favours Mercedes a little bit. There's not so much of it at Mexico. I think that middle sector heading into the 3rd sector is quite twisty. Lots of winding bends, very very tight cornering.
I feel like this track is more of a Red Bull circuit. I think this is Max's to lose. I think he's going to win this one, which makes it 2-0 to Max for me. Next, Interlagos, Brazil. I'm so happy to see it back. And of course, was won last time by Max Verstappen. Lewis finishing P3 behind Gasly. Lewis did win in 2018, but this is a track where Lewis has only won twice in his whole career, which by his standards is pretty low considering a track like Hungary he's won like 7 times.
One of the best tracks ever built, in my opinion. I think this will be a Hamilton win. He's very good at Brazil.
See, I feel like this one could be another Red Bull track. They've got to maximise those 2 races where they're good at.
2 of Max's greatest drives have been at Sao Paulo. I'm going to say Max. And if Max doesn't do well in Mexico and Brazil, I do struggle thinking that he's going to win the title.
I'm going with Lewis. You've got Decidia Delago, that long straight heading into the Rita Oposta. I think that long straight is going to be crucial. I also think coming out of Junchao, the final few bends at Brazil will favour Mercedes.
They both perform well there, over the course of their careers. To be fair, obviously, Max, Brazil 2016, that infamous race in the West. There was from the championship there back in 08, of course, as well. I might say Red Bull. Christian Horner said they kind of like got one eye on next year and another eye on this year at the same time. I think, they want to try and be all in, especially at the tracks that they're pretty strong at. Maybe Red Bull just nick it, but it's close. It's close, though.
2019 was super tight pace-wise between Max and Lewis. If anything, I think if they're going to come together, I see it going down at Interlagos. I'm saying Max comes out on top between the two of them, which means it's 3-0 to Max onto Qatar. So, unknown prospect, the Losail International Circuit. We've never raced there before in F1. Big in MotoGP. Apparently very good in MotoGP. I've watched the onboards. There's not much track undulation, but it looks all right. It's like Bahrain, but the corners aren't quite as sharp. They're more kind of rounded off.
Bit of guesswork, really, but these two new tracks could be the curveball in the title. But I'm going to say Hamilton because of him winning in Bahrain, even though I know that was probably Max's race to win.
I'm going to say Lewis just because I'm basing it on Bahrain.
Flat circuit, very high speed, a lot of straights. I think, again, we're talking Mercedes. I think this is a Lewis Hamilton track all over. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Valtteri up there as well.
Mercedes may come out on top, especially if what Toto said is correct, because he said don't rule out Lewis getting another ICE unit, basically. So if that's the case, they might want to unleash it there.
I think that'll be a Lewis win as well, just because I feel like Lewis Hamilton just wins night races. I don't know,
this is going to be more of a Mercedes circuit. I think this is where Lewis, by this stage, again, Max has taken 3 wins, or at least 3 positions above Lewis in a row. Hamilton's going to bring the hammer, man. Because, again, you can't look past Lewis to deliver when the chips are down. I reckon he'll win this one at Qatar, making it 3-1. Absolutely nothing to lose. He might as well go full send by this stage. And then on to the hair clip. The penultimate round, Saudi Arabia. The Jeddah Street Circuit. It looks trash. It doesn't even look finished yet, to be honest. I'm not anticipating a great race there.
It's proper dusty, and it's half finished, and I honestly, I don't know. It's just not great, is it? I'm going to go with Max, actually.
It's similar to Monza. I think looking at it, you've got Sector 2 and Sector 3. They're so tight. You haven't got any room to really breathe. And I think that's where Red Bull are certainly going to be the favourites.
It's going to be one of them. It's like Monaco, where it just kind of depends on qualifying. Whoever comes out in qualifying, and then the advantage is basically there because, as I said, there's very limited overtaking opportunities, if any. I might say Mercedes might nick it, to be fair.
This is where I think the incident will occur, because I've been having a closer look at these circuits over the last few days, and I think if you look at turn 1 at Saudi Arabia, that's a sharp turn 1, and you've got two guys that haven't been too friendly into turn 1s this year. And this is where I think the incident will happen. I think Lewis will come off worse. I think he'll have a puncture. He'll have to pit, and Max will easily win this race, and Lewis will finish P5.
Ooh. This is the track of any that I just feel like is going to be absolute Baku carnage. If I had to guess any track where Max and Lewis are colliding again, this is the one, especially right at the end of the season. But if I had to pick, I'm going to say Lewis again.
There's a lot of straights. Mercedes seem to have unlocked a bit more speed in their car for whatever reason. Overtaking opportunities seem a bit limited unless you're going to do a DRS slingshot because the walls are right there. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some pretty sketchy accidents, I'm not going to lie. I do feel that this kind of track is probably going to suit the Mercedes a bit more. So Lewis is going to take the head-to-head victory, which means it's now 3-2 going into the final race, the final season, final at Abu Dhabi. They've made some modifications, which I think are very welcome. It looks like it's going to be a better track for overtaking. Fingers crossed. I guess we're not really going to see that until next year, to be fair. We're still old regs, new track, you know what I mean? Now, again, looking back to last year, Max won the 2020 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, which was a big deal at the time. I remember this. They hadn't won there since Seb had in 2013. This had been a Mercedes track through and through. Domination 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18 and 19 won by a Mercedes car. Lewis with 4 of those wins.
I was actually split on this one. Max won it last year, granted. Mercedes, though, you got to give him a little bit of credit again, because Lewis had just come back from COVID for this particular race. He wasn't 100% right. P3 on anyone's day is a good performance, especially given the fact that Mercedes openly admitted that they weren't developing the car. Where Max looked positive and Red Bull looked positive at the start of the season, I think we're seeing a swing. I think Mercedes are now attacking this final part of the season. I'm going to go with Lewis. I mean, on an average day, I would have probably said maybe Red Bull would be the favourites, but I'm going with Lewis for this one.
It'd be interesting to see if Mercedes can still hold that dominance that they've had. Yeah, I might say Mercedes. Yeah, I think if it's crunch time or whatnot, I think with the experience that they both have, Lewis and Mercedes, I feel like they should come out on top. Can Lewis and the strategy team, can they be on the same page? Because it's going to be the case of Lewis should have listened to the team, or the team should have listened to Lewis, and then he miss out on crucial points.
I'm going to say a Max Verstappen win for the final race of the season. The fireworks are going to go off. Christian Horner's going to be crying. I think Lewis will finish P3 in that race. I feel like it's going to be one of those races where, you remember in 2016 where Lewis was in control of the race, backed up the field, just wanted everyone to catch Nico. Similar sort of deal, but Lewis is going to try something bold. It's just not really going to work, and he's just going to have to settle for P3.
I think it will be a Mercedes track. I don't know if last year was Mercedes stepping their foot off the gas a little bit, but it does still feel like that Mercedes stronghold, even though they made a couple of changes. But it's just always felt like a Mercedes favoured track. But my biggest fear, it ends up being decided by like Perez or Bottas pitting for a fastest lap.
Oh my God, I never even thought of that. That would
because they could take it off them.
Abu Dhabi, I'm going to go with Lewis win. They've changed the Abu Dhabi track as well. So, it's not going to be as much of a procession, because I think if it was, how much pressure is on that qualifying? If, really, if there still is a lot of pressure on that qualifying. I'd love to see a situation where they're both going into turn 1 side by side again. And given what happened at Monza, I would be interested to see, is Max willing to back out, basically, of that situation if it requires it? What I will say about Verstappen, his driving this season, his consistency has been incredible. It's crazy. Title on the line, 5, 6, or no, 5, 4, 3 races left, 2 races left, whatever. What's the risk reward kind of analysis going on in his head in that situation? Is he going to back out, or is he going to send it?
Max was pretty comfortable last year. Obviously, it's the end of the year. Lewis didn't have a championship to fight for. He'd already won it. I maintain that if there was one more lap, Albon would have caught Hamilton. I can't prove it, but you can't prove that it wouldn't have happened. So there we go. So yeah, based off last time, you'd say Max, but based off historically, you'd say Lewis. And I think last year, Mercedes had no reason to develop the car further. You know what? This is one of them where I think it's going to be super tight, but I think Lewis would just about edge it, which makes it 3-3, Max versus Lewis in head-to-heads. So who wins the title? Look, I promise you, I've not just done, I'm going to give 3 to Max and 3 to Lewis just for the drama. I'm not going to be a twat like that. That's genuinely what I think. That's genuinely how I think each race is going to pan out. But just because they both get the same number of head-to-heads, like one could finish first, the other could finish 8th, and then in another one they could finish 1 and 2. So that doesn't necessarily mean anything. Who's actually going to win the title, from my point of view? Who do I think is going to win it? Well, before that, let's see what everyone else thinks. We'll come out on top. So who, Richard, is your 2021 World Drivers' Champion?
I think Lewis will get it. I did think for a while maybe Max might do it, because, he's been arguably the most consistent driver on the grid, to be honest with you. Of course, Norris has been up there. You can order Carlos Sainz and other drivers as well. Pierre Gasly, shout out to him. But I feel like in this scenario, Max has never been here before, whereas Lewis has. So I feel like if you mix in the experience of Lewis as well as his quality, it should be the case of, Lewis should do it. But as I said, I'll be very surprised if that doesn't be the case, to be honest with you.
So your 2021 Formula One World Championship winner
is Max Verstappen. Yes. Over the last few weeks, my brain has been saying Lewis Hamilton, and my heart has been saying Max. But I mean, if it just takes one moment, and I think that
literally,
I feel like Red Bull have been really good all season. They've actually had a lot of bad luck. So have Mercedes, but I feel like Red Bull's bad luck has just been so much worse. Like in Baku, Max was in control of that race. Like he was easily going to win that race, and I just feel like Red Bull have been so good all season.
So Tommy Bellingham, Tommy WTF1. Who for you is going to be the 2021 world champion?
I feel the way the season's gone, even though I've got my Verstappen cape here, I still think it's going to be Lewis. I think it was after double Austria, and people were saying, oh, it's over. Verstappen's won this title. Mercedes is going to focus on next year. He's so far ahead now. And I'm thinking, this is Mercedes and Hamilton. And then, sure enough, the next race, they collide. Race after, Bottas, bowling balls, both Red Bulls, and they're right back in it. And
momentum,
regardless of whether, and even Baku is a perfect example. It can change at the flip of a coin. This season is not necessarily. It's so close between them. I do really hope it doesn't get decided by like a DNF or whatever. But Red Bull maybe feels like they're losing a bit of momentum right at the end, whereas normally they're the ones that are pushing and going. But it seems like Mercedes have actually caught up, if anything.
And obviously, like Lewis winning the title, putting my Lewis absolute devotion aside, it is great. This season has been great for the sport.
Yeah, 100%.
This season has been, there's things about this season that I haven't enjoyed. And, that's by the by. But in terms of the sporting aspect of this season, I think it's been incredible. And I think for it to go down to the last race of the season and be decided, and, for it to be decided on the last day.
Who, Jules, is your 2021 world champion going to be?
Mr. 8-timer, I think it's going to be Lewis Hamilton. I think he's going to get it. Experience is vital, Tommo. And he's done it already 7 times. He's beaten the best. He's challenged the best. I think this is where experience counts. I don't think Max really got the most out of the start of the season. I think there was many races. I think he left a chance. I think they made a few errors. They definitely had the faster package at the start of the season. Yeah. And I think the tables have turned. I think Mercedes have been playing the long game. I really think that we could be seeing the tides turn. And I think with Lewis now, with the Mercedes power and everything, I think what Helmut Marko and Christian Horner was saying was very telling. I saw the straight line speed between Lewis and Checo at Turkey, and he just, no DRS, just breezed past that Red Bull. And that, for me, is huge alarm bells ringing for me at the moment.
Look, I've gone through all of the year up to this point, pretty much, thinking that, Lewis will always find a way. He always does find a way, apart from in 2016. Always seems to be able to pull out those performances, even when things aren't going his way. He's a 7-time world champion for a reason. But as this season has gone on, I've got to say, by Lewis Hamilton's standards, the mistakes have crept in more than we've come to expect. Poor showing in Monaco, brake magic at Baku, the wall in Imola, pit wall, tap at Russia, broke his car in Austria, made a poor call in Turkey, and Silverstone, I still think he was more at fault. Sorry. Max hasn't been perfect, of course, but no one's had a perfect season in Formula One ever. There's always going to be mistakes. A mistake is measured by the outcome, and Lewis has made more mistakes in those critical moments, like the brake magic at Baku. That was his mistake, and he threw away a 25-point buffer. He'd be ahead of Max comfortably if he hadn't have just pressed that little button by accident. My good American friend and F1 content creator, Cranky Yankee, who needs to upload a bloody video. Come on, Nick, sort it out, mate. Tweeted a few days back that Hamilton this year has a worse podium and in the point finish rate than he did in his debut season in 2007. For me, in terms of consistency and performance, Max has definitely been the better driver this year. I mean, you look, he's led more laps than everyone else combined who's led a lapping in Formula One this year. He's been on top for sure. It takes a brave person to bet against Sir Lewis Hamilton because, again, he always seems to find a way. But honestly, right now, I feel like I've changed my mind. I think if I had to put money on it today, I'm probably putting my money on Max. I've just been so impressed with Max's consistency, the way he's kept a level head for most of it. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't very impressed with how he went all character assassin-y on Lewis after Silverstone. Don't get me wrong. I think Max has just been on a level higher than Lewis this year. I think he will just about sneak the title, which isn't what I would have said a few races ago, to be honest. But there we have it. That's what I thought. That's what Nyasha, Sam, George, Richard and Tommy thought as well. Thank you, boys, for coming on. Let me know in the comments down below, what do you think? Who's going to come out on top for the next 6 races and who's going to win the 2021 World Championship? Thank you all for watching. I do really appreciate it. I'm just buzzing. Like, it's just been so fun this year. I know people get like territorial with their favourite drivers, blah, blah, blah. Let's just enjoy the spectacle. Let's just be a bit less, stuck in our lanes. Let's just enjoy the ride, because this is one hell of a championship that we'll be looking back on in years to come thinking, that was a banger. Big up Squarespace once again for sponsoring this video and what I do. Much appreciated. My name's been Tommo, as it usually is. Thanks again. Have a good one. Ta-da.